Cheap versus expensive coilovers, a topic that's been debated since the beginning of time. And people generally fall into two camps. Either expensive is better, and I'm broke. Well, the Miata is currently sitting on some expensive Meister R Clubrace coilovers that cost about $1,400. But MaXpeedingRods, a company that grew in popularity as being one of the go-to eBay special companies, sent me a pair of less expensive coilovers that they sell for about $300 to review for you guys. And with an $1,100 difference between the coilovers, is paying more really worth it? And who would actually be better off with the cheaper, less expensive MaXpeedingRods coilovers? Alright, so these are the Meister R Clubrace coilovers that were provided by Miata when I was building this car. And they retail for about $1,400 brand new. They were developed with Miata characteristics in mind, and so they offer spring rates that are tuned for this car. They also have a monotube design, height adjustable, and also damping adjustable. They also have what they call close ratio damping, which essentially means that over street and rough roads, the damping is tuned for comfort, but on smoother racetrack surfaces with like larger damping speeds, for example, when you're going into a corner, the damping is tuned to provide like performance and response. And I can say firsthand with these coilovers on the street, the car is firm, but it's really comfortable. And something I wouldn't have really thought of with like higher spring rates and coilovers that are built for track in mind. But overall, I was really happy with these as they really could do it all. Alright, so for $300, build quality isn't too bad. It's got some basic features on it as well. We got 24 levels of damping adjustability. It is ride height adjustable, pillow ball mounts. It is a twin tube design, which is different from the Meister R monotube design. And basically the difference between monotube and twin tube essentially is for on the track when these, coilovers get pretty hot. The monotube design has a better ability to handle that heat. Again, these coilovers are more street focused, so you're not gonna have any sort of special close ratio dampening characteristics like you do on the more expensive set. So on paper, these most likely will be a little bit less comfortable compared to the Meister R's on the street. Again, these coilovers are more economical, so you can kind of see where they were able to save a little bit of money and offer a coilover at this ridiculously low price. So let's go ahead and throw these coilovers on the Miata and give it a quick drive and review. Alright, so the MaXpeedingRod coilovers are installed. I forgot how annoying installing coilovers were on a Miata, so of course it took a lot longer than I planned. But here it is. Here's how the car sits after the install. I normally don't like my cars too slammed, so about 2 to 3 fingers worth of wheel gap is pretty good for me. And also note that initially the rears did not sit this low after the install. They actually sat much higher. I'm talking like 4 fingers worth of wheel gap, which is either stock height or a little bit higher than that, even at the lowest setting. I had to actually take off a considerable amount of preload just to get it to sit lower, so it's at negative preload right now, which is not ideal. But here it is. Now let's get in the car for a quick drive and see how it feels. Alright, just put a little bit of gas in the car. About 5 gallons at like 30 something bucks. Jeez. Alright, so now to the handling, performance, and comfort of the MaXpeedingRod coilovers on the street. I have them currently set on the softest damping setting, and it's not terribly uncomfortable. It's definitely bouncier than the Meister R's are, but also I had to take a bunch of preload off of the rears to have them sit at a reasonable height, so the rears are definitely bottoming out. Over larger bumps, you can feel the car sometimes almost jump because there's no suspension travel. And again, this is an unfortunate side effect of using off-the-shelf shocks across many makes and models. They just end up being, even in their lowest height setting, way too tall for the rears of the Miata. At its lowest setting, it's at least as high as stock.
You can get a lower ride height by taking preload off, but that just means you're bottoming out your shocks, and generally that's not ideal. However, considering the price, it's pretty doable if you just need a cheap set of coilovers or suspension on your car. Like in the instance, your stock suspension is blown, or again, you just need something low cost to drive the car. Taking turns and U-turns feel pretty good. Obviously, I can't rip this around the street like I would on the track, but for some spirited driving, it feels fine. Mountain roads might be a different story considering the limited rear travel when going over bumps in the road, so it's hard to say how well it would do on that type of situation, but I would definitely like to have more rear suspension travel for stability and handling purposes.
So yeah, those are my initial thoughts on the MaXpeedingRods coilovers. As to answer the original question, is it worth jumping up an extra $1,200, which is a lot of money, to the Meister R Clubrace or any other similar $300 range coilovers? In my opinion, it depends. It depends on what you're okay with and what you're gonna use the car for. If you're taking the car to the track, make the jump. Totally worth it. And as a byproduct, your comfortability and streetability is also going to be a lot better. But if you got blown suspension, you need something to get on this car, you know, the MaXpeedingRod coilovers are definitely a good option, and that's pretty much why they exist and that's why they sell so well. You just gotta know that there's gonna be limitations. You're gonna be limited on ride height without taking off preload, unfortunately. You're gonna be limited on a few other things, spring rates and things like that. But again, it all depends on what you need. If you need a pair of coilovers, you need a pair of suspension, this fits the bill. If you have the budget to do so and you're comfortable to do so, make the jump up. I think it's worth it. But again, $1,200 is a lot of money, so you know, it's gonna be your call. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.